So this is what we call the zero-point field. It is the quantum field, the unified field, the energy that connects everything material. It is the consciousness of the all in all. It is oneness, wholeness, universal mind, infinite intelligence, zero-point field, the unified field, source, observer, the void, the fertile void, all possibilities, the eternal now, the infinite unknown, the very life force that holds everything together. And it's a unifying field. And scientists have been trying to unify the principles and the energy of the universe to explain how matter exists. So energy then, the zero-point field, slows down in frequency and it reaches a certain point, and at this level there's an explosion called the Big Bang. And all of a sudden energy can't slow anymore before it divides and becomes polarized. And the patterns of everything material exist at the speed of light. And it's the patterns then that slow energy down to take form and structure that ultimately appear as matter. All of us, the divine aspect of ourselves, came from this universal intelligence, and we came all the way down into density. And this is the realm of our senses. And we can experience the three-dimensional reality with our senses, and we spend our whole life being a somebody or having some type of body, or knowing someone, or being someone, owning certain things, living somewhere in some time, and this becomes the identity. People then spend the majority of their life living in this way, and they experience from matter the greatest separation from the unified field. Here is source, and if you're living as a body local in space and time, you're experiencing a separation between you as a consciousness and the consciousness of the unified field. So when you're living in a body in space and time, it takes a long time for your dreams to happen. So if you're thinking certain thoughts and certain thoughts produce certain feelings, you're taking a thought and you're beginning to store it as energy or emotion in one of these centers. And most people are thinking in these first three centers, and when they do, they're storing energy in their first three centers, and their body's being conditioned to be the mind. It takes opening this center to begin the creative process. This is the center of oneness. This is the center of wholeness. This is the union of polarity and duality. And if you can't get energy into your heart then, for the most part then, it requires a coherent brain and a coherent heart to begin to affect the nature of reality, to begin to affect matter. So then every thought that you think produces a frequency. And most people's frequencies, most people's thoughts are in this realm right here. And it would make sense then, if they're thinking lower thought frequencies, then it's going to take a long time for their dreams to come true. Think about that problem in your life, or that condition that has never changed. What are your thoughts about it? It's not something pleasant, is it? And what are the feelings associated with it? There aren't feelings that you don't typically want to live by, but you live by those feelings every single day. Yes or no? So then you're reacting consciously or unconsciously to the thought of the problem or the actual problem over and over again. You are broadcasting an electromagnetic signature into your field. But if you're creating, and those thoughts are these lower frequency thoughts, then you have very little effect on matter. So now you got to go make the problem happen. You got to go change it with you. You got to get your identity or personality involved in it. So then we found out in the research that we've done, and we now know there's a formula, that when a person takes all of their attention off their body, all of their attention off the people in their life, all of their attention off their things they own, their cell phone, their computer, their car, every object or material thing, take their attention off their home, where they sleep, where they work, they take all the attention off where they're even sitting, and they take their attention off the predictable future or the familiar past, and they find the sweet spot of the generous present moment, then they're disinvesting all of their attention and energy out of this three-dimensional reality, and they're moving in the opposite direction towards the unified field. And now, when they become nobody, no one, no thing, nowhere, and no time, they have to pass through different layers of emotions that have memories, different frequencies that are carrying different information, and they got to pass through these layers that have become their identity. And most people don't know how to make their way through, so they do a little bit and then they come back to their identity, the same personality. Most of you, almost all of you, have traversed through these frequencies and reached the point where you can become nobody, no one, no thing, nowhere, and no time. And that is the moment you are pure consciousness, and you now are no longer associating with anything in three-dimensional reality. And if where you place your attention is where you place your energy, then you're disinvesting all of your attention and energy out of this three-dimensional reality off of everything that's known. And you're making a choice to go to a field where all possibilities exist, the unknown, the quantum field, above the speed of light. And Einstein said, E equals mc squared. Anything that travels, matter traveling faster than the speed of light, is going to turn into energy. And this tends to create more connection, more unity, while matter creates more separation. And as you get closer and closer to the unified field, you will experience more oneness, more wholeness, more connection. You'll experience a greater level of mind. Now, this is important because in order for us to do that, a person has to go from a narrow focus on matter and begin to widen, broaden their focus on nothing but space, on nothing, on a void of anything material. And when you do that properly and you begin to open your awareness, when you start sensing space, you're no longer thinking. And if you're no longer thinking, you're no longer analyzing. And if you're no longer analyzing, you're no longer activating these circuits in your brain. And when you no longer activate these circuits in the brain, you begin to suppress the memory bank of your known identity called the neocortex. And if you do that properly, your brain waves move from that agitated, aroused high beta state into a mid-range beta state. And then you may move a little bit, and then if you're addicted to those stress hormones or you're conditioned to those emotions, and then all of a sudden you may move back into high beta and you get frustrated and impatient with yourself and you want to quit, and there's disorder in the brain, and then you go back again to the next meditation and you do it again. And as you start opening your awareness and your brainwaves start to change from beta to alpha, all of a sudden you start crossing the analytical mind. And what separates the conscious mind from the subconscious mind is the analytical mind. And now you're entering the subconscious programs. Now you're entering the operating system. And as you open your focus and you start connecting to energy, to the unified field, to nothing, its signature is oneness and wholeness. And when you start processing that frequency, all of a sudden the brain starts getting more organized. It starts getting more coherent. It starts resonating in cadence. It starts to synchronize. And all of a sudden, different compartments of the brain that were subdivided start to integrate and become more whole. And you start feeling more like yourself. And not only do you produce alpha brainwave patterns or theta brainwave patterns, you produce coherent and organized patterns. And all of a sudden, the brain starts moving into more coherence or psychic union. By the same means, we know that if you place your attention in your heart, where you place your attention is where you place your energy. And of the infinite possibilities in the quantum field you can put your attention on, you put all of your attention right here. And if you can regulate and learn how to create elevated emotions, these emotions down here are pain and guilt and shame and unworthiness and suffering and anger and frustration and patience and resentment and competition and envy and jealousy and importance. These are all those slower frequency emotions. And when you cross over into oneness or wholeness, energy moves into your heart. And you start feeling gratitude, appreciation, kindness, care, joy, bliss, ecstasy. These are faster frequencies, and that's how you know you're getting closer to the unified field.